Cigar.
Ah, sorry, I was actually listening to your voice and looking at Ian, and I thought, brilliant.
A bit of confusion.
Yeah, I really must stop drinking fizzy water during the day. It obviously does my head.
I guess we'll make a start if that's okay with everyone. So tonight we've got something a bit different. So we're going to talk about Camacho, and Mitchell and Cigars Ltd just got the Camacho Nicaragua Barrel Aged in sampling packs, which is a cigar which never got released in the UK before. So we thought let's do a Zoom event with George, who is the brand ambassador for Camacho in the US. So he's the Camacho expert within our business, who's going to give a little presentation about the Nicaragua Barrel Aged, but also the American Barrel Aged a bit later on. I think first of all, George, if you want to do a bit more of an elaborate introduction of yourself.
All right. You guys can hear me?
Yeah.
Well, let me see, because I'm trying to using this new microphone that I got, so I don't want to. All right. So my name is George Rami, aka Latin Thunder. That's my nickname here in the U.S. I've been with Davidoff for 8 years now. Going on 8 years. I was the last piece of the puzzle for the Camacho rebranding back in 2013. We rebranded, the Camacho cigar brand, and something that the cigar industry had never seen, right? And it's had never seen it here in the U.S. and it's and then right after we did the relaunch, Camacho became a global brand that it was not before. We pretty much okay. So my background was in retail, right? So I've been in the cigar industry for about 16 years now. I started very, very young. I used to have a retail store in Miami, and managed one, and then I had my own. And just like any business, I needed to transition into something else. I wanted to go into manufacturing, and very soon I found out that it was just not as easy as it looks. And which Dylan Austin, which is now our president here in the U.S., has been a friend of mine for years, and he mentioned that they had an opening for Camacho, right? And I fit the profile very well, just because I am Honduran as well, so it fits very well with the brand. And I drove up to Tampa to our office, and just went through the whole interview and all that stuff. And then towards the end, Dylan walked me into the conference room. He showed me exactly what Camacho was going to look like, right? And I was just astonished, because I had never seen anything like that before. And just the future of the brand looked very promising, right? So right away, I got the job then, and started with the launch of the brand nationally here. Pretty much, I think I have been to 46 states just promoting the brand. I have done 3 national road tours, which is literally, I was in a big truck and a trailer around the country for 3 years, doing events, doing all sorts of activations that were related with motorcycles, right? So we partnered up with Harley Davidson, and we gave away probably about 3-4 motorcycles in that 3-year time frame. And after that, I, kind of moved up a little bit, and had to move to the office. So now I moved here in Tampa. I've been here for a year. Very happy. Love it here. And then now I am part of the execution of the campaigns that before I used to, of the creation of the campaigns that before I used to just execute, right? So they would just send me on the road with all this stuff. And now I'm part of the creation of these campaigns, which is what I wanted to do since the beginning. And pretty much later on, I started with Avo as well. Avo passed away a few years back, and we needed somebody to go out there and promote it, and we shifted the brand a little bit, made it a little more modern. So now I'm with Avo as well. But in my heart, it's Camacho, right? That's what I've been doing for the past 8 years with the brand, with the company, and Camacho is just my baby, right? I've seen the evolution of the brand, because and I'll show you a little bit of the history of Camacho. But we purchased the brand back in 2008 from the Aroa family. And you know, since then we have transformed everything from our fields to our factory in Honduras. I believe in my short presentation I have a small, you know, short video on the factory and what we call Camp Camacho, right? And that's this is just these trips that we have to Honduras. It's a 4-night, 3-day. It's a 4-day, 3-night trip. But we'll see a little bit about that in a second. Pretty much, that's just me with Camacho. You know, I guess as we go through our chat, I'll be able to, you know, that just if something else pops up, I'll share it with you guys.
So let's get one thing out of the way first. Where is your nickname Latin Thunder coming from?
Where? Okay, so which you've probably been there at our Madison store. It was a night of a lot of actually bullet bourbon, right? We were down in the basement with don't know if you remember Luis, and we had back in the day we had part of the board of the bold was one of them was Matt Booth, right, from Room 101, and we are there, you know, getting it going, and at some point just we were there with our agency that helped us rebrand Camacho. And Booth just comes up with just this like, hey man, you're like, I don't know if you ever talked to him or seen him speak. He's very elaborate. He moves his hands, his head, his beard, and all that stuff. And he's like, you look like the Latin Thunder or something like that. And the guys from the agency are like, bro, this is great. We're gonna use that. You know, I know it sounds a little cheesy and all whatever, but that is great. It's catchy, blah blah blah. So the rest is history. You know, I've had that nickname for 8 years now.
All right.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, you've got a little presentation. So you had a comment, Mitchell?
Just quick interruption, quick fun fact about Camacho. I was friends with Christian Aroa back in 1994. So I remember the sort of original ones with the funny pyramid-shaped boxes. And we did the challenge between my Havana cigars and his Camacho cigars in a lovely place called Shays in St. James's way back in 1999. So there's a silly fun fact for you. And I still love him. He's a fabulous guy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's still always in the business. He's got this CLE brand and
we sell it.
Aroa and Asylum. And all that stuff. So he's still out there. Just that we, you know, obviously under the umbrella of Davidoff, we just exploded this brand into a global brand now. And yeah, mentioning the little pyramids, I used to sell those right back in the day. So all the Camachos and every other cigar out there, I have sold before, and then. Those little pyramid boxes, it was always, you know, it was tricky how they came in. And then the other thing with the Camacho before, it was like there were boxes of 25, there was boxes of 21, there was boxes of 26, boxes of 18. It was just a complete mess. I remember, but yeah, no, Christian, he offered me a job when I left my partnership in my store, but he wanted me to move to Georgia. I'm like, no, man, no. And within a week, I got the call from our president to get this gig. But yeah, Christian, I've known him for a long time. He went to high school with who was my business partner in this store. So he would always come out and hang out and all that stuff. But yeah, no, it's a good guy. Very knowledgeable. I mean, if there is a family that has, you know, some impact in the cigar industry, it's I would say the Aroas and, you know, the Plasencias in Central America and stuff like that, you know.
Small world. Where was your cigar store in Miami? Whereabouts?
In you know the area called Brickell?
Yeah.
Brickell? Yeah. So there's a shopping center called Mary Brickell Village. Yeah. And then my shop was in there. It was on the first floor. Yeah, there was a Blue Martini. There used to be a P.F. Chang's. Well, the Blue Martini's still there. Everything else has shifted into, you know, they've opened up new businesses. But yeah, I mean, the shop we opened back in, I remember it was a leap year, opened in 2008, if I'm not wrong. And then yeah, it's been there for, you know, almost 12 years now.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. I think you had a little presentation you wanted to show, George.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up here. Host disabled attendee screen sharing. It doesn't let me share my screen. Is there something that you may have to do there, Roy?
I'll make you the host, and you should be able to.
Or co-host, or however.
You should be able to do it now.
Yeah? Okay. Alright, what do we have here? Share this.
There we are.
You guys see it? Alright. You guys just see one slide, right? Because I have here, I'm using 2 screens right now, so I just want to share as well.
We see 2 actually.
You see 2?
Well, I see slide 1, and then you see next to it slide 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Why is it not? Let me see if I can. Let me see one thing. Let me just actually do this first.
So what the presentation will show you while George is trying to get it up, it's going to show a little bit about the American barrel aged, so the Bourbon barrel aged Camacho, as well as the Nicaraguan barrel aged. It also shows you a bit of history about Camacho and Camacho factory, as George mentioned earlier. So
yeah.
Gives you insight into everything Camacho really. So quite a nice presentation. A couple of videos as well.
I think it looks the same, right?
The same, but we can go with it. That's fine.
Okay. All right. So just a little, brand evolution timeline. The company, the name Camacho, the brand itself, it was not affiliated with the Aroas back in the day. So it started pretty much Camacho. Corojo is where it all started, right? So the Corojo was what made Cuban cigars famous around the world, right? That's what the rapper and that Cuba used in its heyday. And there was this gentleman called Simon Camacho, right, that fled Cuba and opened up a cigar factory in Miami, right? So this is the first. This marks the date where the year where Corojo was grown outside of Cuba, right? And obviously under the name of Camacho, right? And let me see, in 1990. 1990, almost 1991, Simon Camacho passed away. All right. Unfortunately, he passed away of some health issues that he had, and he just left the brand dormant. His family was not willing to get involved with the cigars. It was not their thing, blah, blah, blah. And in 1995 is where, let me see. Why is this not? Okay. In 1995 was when Julio Eiroa purchased the brand from the Camacho family, right? Pennies on the dollar back in the day. And then in the year 1997, it was the last crop of Corojo in Cuba. They were suffering of blue mold and some other diseases that they had to create a hybrid strain to withstand the problems that they had with their crops in the day. So now, at this point, there is no longer original Corojo in Cuba, right? What they have now is the hybrid. I think it's called, at that point, there's different names, but it's a Bell and a number, something Bell and a number, which, from there came the Corojo 99 and the Criollo and all that stuff. So after that, in the year 2000 is when Camacho and the Corojo came together, right? And then since then, it had been already 4 years almost of the Corojo being grown outside of Cuba, right? And then that Corojo was also being grown by the Eiroa family in Honduras, which Julio Eiroa was, and Generoso, the grandfather, was part of the whole movement of bringing tobacco out of Cuba and brought into Mesoamerica, right? And then they tried different areas, and then they ended up in Honduras, in the area of Jamastran and Jalapa Valley, which is just, it shares the same region. It just happens to be cut through the middle because of the country borders and stuff. But it's just a volcanic area that is just very prominent to offer a high yield of the Corojo plants, right? So that's in the year 2000. In the year 2000, also the brand was launched here in the U.S. Right. At that point, all cigars that were sold, throughout the cigar boom, were mild to medium. There was no really, bold cigars at the time. And Camacho came with this revolutionary Corojo, that spiciness, that blast of pepper, leather notes, and just that bold cigar in general came into the market in the year 2000. And then from there, it just, it took off. Right. In the year 2007, the pretty much, the triple Maduro was launched, right? It was a project that started back in 2005, but it was 81 different trial and errors with this blend. I don't know if you guys know a little bit about blending. One thing is just grabbing, the wrapper, the binder, and the filler and putting it together. But getting to that one blend in particular takes a lot of time, and also is this one cigar in particular, the triple Maduro, has to be fermented for at least an extra 6 to 8 months each part of the tobacco, right? So you had to wait until all the tobacco was ready, and then you brought it in and actually made your recipe, your blend, right? So all that took a while. That started in 2005, but it was actually launched in 2007, and it's still to this point, I would claim to that we have the only triple Maduro, real triple Maduro in the market. Right in the year 2008, after all the success of the brand from the year 2000 to 2008, Odinger Davidoff purchased Camacho from the Aroa family, right? And for a couple of years, I believe Christian was still involved in the transition, and then just management of the brand and all that stuff. And then finally, he moved on to other ventures within the same industry, and Camacho's Davidoff's Camacho was born, right? And then in 2009, going back a little bit, this was in 2009. It was the launch of our Camacho Connecticut, right? It's our best-selling cigar, and that one was the first joint venture between Christian and Hanky Kellner, right? Our master blender for Davidoff. And they put together the Camacho Connecticut. Has a combination between some Dominican fillers and Honduran fillers. One is the Alemán Ligero, which is German Ligero. It's a German engineer seed that is grown in Honduras. And then you have the Generoso, right? Generoso, it's just that strain that took the name of the grandfather of Julio Iroha. So those two are the ones that are in the filler of the Camacho Connecticut. Like I said, it's our best-selling cigar. It's very creamy. It kind of hits every point of the palate for the milder smokers, right? And that goes to tell you, we have so many other bold cigars, but our best-selling cigar, it's our mildest one, which goes to tell you that everybody, at least here in the U.S., most of the people like mild to medium cigars, and we see it in the numbers, right? And that's what happened prior to the year 2000 when Camacho was launched. That everything, the majority, the mass smokers are they like mild to medium. All right. So in 2013. We had the rebrand, that's when I came into into play. That was in 2013. We cleaned up all SKUs of the brand. We discontinued some of them. We renamed some of them. For example, the Criollo used to be the old Camacho Havana. We had to rebrand it, obviously, for international purposes. We could not call a cigar Havana if it's not Cuban, outside of just in general. It would just be misleading. So we changed that to Criollo. What else did we? The Connecticut stayed the same. Blend stayed the same from when it was created back in 2009. Triple Maduro is the same. Corojo, and then we've added some other ones throughout the years, just like the American Barrel Aged and the Nicaraguan Barrel Aged, which we'll talk in a little bit. Right?
Sorry to interrupt you, George. Are you moving the slides yourself, or because we don't see any movement? Just checking.
Well, it's unfortunately you can't. The timeline it's moving on the. So a year it's popping up every time. Every time I talk about something, there's a timeline. You don't see the movement on the timeline?
No.
I'm by 2013 right now.
No, so we're still on slide 1. So.
Oh, why? What? Okay.
Let me see. If you can, that's better. We just saw it just now.
Next slide. Let me see. How about now?
No.
Shoot.
If you make me the host again, I can share it from my side. Otherwise.
Okay. I mean, you do have the presentation, but this is just it says sharing is paused. Why would it be paused? So now you can see this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, once I go into my let's see, full view, slide only. Let me see if I can zoom it. You should be able to see this at least. Okay. This is strange because I've done this a few times now, and it's just not letting me do it. Okay. I don't know what's going on there.
If you just make me host again on the Zoom call, I'll pull up the presentation from my side.
Yeah, let me see.
And we can do it that way.
Let me stop the share. Okay. Make host. Change host. All right. You should be all right, move on to the next slide. I guess you're using the why don't you do the PDF? Is this the PDF?
No, it is the PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's why it's gonna. Since remember that I had it on Keynote, so it's just gonna look all messy. If you can pull up the PDF, should be good to go. Yeah, because this is just from what from what they can see. Yeah, once you kind of it doesn't optimize well when you change it from a Keynote to that we work with Mac here, at least us here in the marketing department.
Well, PDF I won't be able to show the videos, so I'll keep it on this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's only this slide, which is a bit.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the only one that has such transitions. Okay.
Yeah, the rest is fine.
So we were by 2013. You want to go ahead?
There we are. Camacho rebrand.
Yeah, so 2013 and then 2014. Right, we're good there. So in 2013 is where we rebranded. We did everything that I told you. We launched just the new boxes, the new packaging, bold, all this colorful packaging that we created in conjunction with this agency that I mentioned. Then in 2014 is when we launched Camacho globally, right? Right now, I believe Camacho is up to, it's probably in 87 different countries, thanks to the Davidoff, distribution network. And in 2015 is when we had our biggest launch, right? That was the American Barrel Aged, which is one of those cigars that we'll be talking about right now. That cigar was just it took about 2 years in terms of blending, and that is the only Camacho that is actually made in the Dominican Republic, right? Why? Because back in the day, in 2015, our new factory in Honduras was not ready, and the Dominican Republic, just their expertise was a little deeper into barrel aging at the time. So they still until this day they make that the Camacho American Barrel Aged in Dominican Republic, where they make our Davidoffs and Avos and all that stuff. So that's then. And then back in I just added another one. Back in 2019, we launched our Camacho Distillery series, which is also a bourbon aged filler that we use in these tobaccos. And we just kept it very, very simple. We use our core, which is our Camacho Connecticut, Ecuador, and Corojo. And the Toro size on those is that we age one leaf of the filler, which is Corojo. It's aged in bourbon barrels for 5 months on these, right? So it just gives a nice little nuance in terms of flavor. And that's what we have until 2019. I was gonna add a couple other ones like the Liberties and stuff like that, but it's just, it would have been too much. You wanna go to the next slide? Let me go back. So the last slide, it pretty much showed you the time frame between when we plant the seeds. If you could go back to that one, Roy, probably you can see it. It's the one with the white frame with the arrow, red arrow. Pretty much, it shows you that one, the time that it takes for a cigar to get to your hands, right? From the seedlings all the way to it gets shipped out to retailers, it could take up to 5 years. And now we use the same model that Davidoff uses in their cigars, right? So the quality and consistency of the cigars in our Camacho factory is just the same as your Davidoff cigars, right? So we enforce our crop to shop philosophy, that we control everything from the seeds all the way to get shipped out to the retailers and assure that the quality and consistency of the cigars it's as best as it can be, right? And that's the same thing that we do with Camacho. So this pretty much takes it could take up to 5 years for you to enjoy that one Camacho Connecticut, but the time frame it's pretty much the same. So it takes up to 5 years. Go ahead. Yeah, so this shows you pretty much what I talked about a little bit on the Corojo itself, right? What makes it unique. So you have, it was acquired in the 1960s by Daniel Rodriguez, which is the creator of the Corojo back in the day, right? And we've been growing and preserving the same strain for almost, for over 40 years now. So. And then the Corojo, the junction between the Corojo and Camacho was just to keep that nostalgia of the Corojo tobacco that left Cuba, kept it alive, and just to keep that nostalgia going, right? And that was basically the main idea that Julio Iroa had when he purchased the brand Camacho back in the day. Also, just the Corojo, it's a very versatile strain. It's very easy to blend. Now, if you get it to yield right, that's the hard part, right? But once you get it, it's a tobacco that you can mix with a lot of things, and you can get different flavors from it, and you can actually play with the entire plant. I think fortunately, this is the presentation is not working the way I had designed it. But I have enough the plant, which I think is in one of the slides of. You can actually use the entire plant of Corojo. We have about 96% yield, which means that we can get up to the Corona size part of the plant, which these are smaller leaves. You cannot make any Churchill cigars from that per se, but you can use that and use it in the filler. And that's what gives the Corojo that bold, spiciness and everything, because we use a lot of the Corona in our fillers to, enhance the strength, because this plant, since you crop it from the bottom up, the 6 priming, the Corona, it stays in the plant a lot longer, right? So it gets affected by the elements and the nutrients a lot longer. So it brings out some flavors that you can't get with the 3rd priming or even 4th priming, right? Oh, so yeah, I have Roy just put up the breakdown. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that's pretty much the breakdown of how much we use in the plant, which we pretty much use every little bit of the plant. Just the Libre Pie, which is the first cut. Though that one is usually either ruined because when you walk through the plant, or just it gets all the dirt when it rains. So just that first priming is not usually used for premium cigars. We do have some other uses for it in the farm and the factory, but just that that one little piece of the bottom, that first cut, it's just usually not worth using for premium cigars. Go ahead, one more.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the like the slide says. Let us show you where the magic happens, right? So this is a short video on our new factory in Honduras. Just a little. I'll say something about it after. Is it lagging a little bit? You couldn't get the sound, right? Well, so just if you can see on the video, this is our new farm, right? This new farm is called La Merced. Now we are completely vertical integrated. We produce everything. Actually, the farm, unfortunately, as of right now, it can only produce about 15% of the tobacco that we use, right? Since I mentioned before, Camacho is a global brand and all that stuff, so we have to buy tobacco from some other growers, which includes the Plasencia family. But as of right now, the idea is to be vertical integrated and have all the tobacco just being produced at the farm. But it's just a work in progress. The farm is only 3 years old. And as you can see, you have to go year round and then wait for that crop, and hopefully that crop it's great, and then from there it goes to the factory. So if we mess it up at the farm, at the curing barns, you just wasted an entire year. So that's what takes a little bit of time, and that's the process that we're in right now with our new farm in Honduras. But the factory, as I mentioned before, it's just a complete monster. Before, when we purchased the brand from the Aroa family, the factory that they were using was about 50,000 square feet, right? And after we did the relaunch and everything, the factory was already working at 100%, sometimes 120%, working on weekends and stuff. And it was time to build a bigger factory. So finally, we finished it, and then now our factory is about 190,000 square feet. So it's more than 3 times the amount, the size of the original Camacho factory. And this is something that when we do our Camp Camacho trips, I drive by the old factory, which we still own the building. If you guys are interested in buying a building in Danlí, Honduras, and show them the difference, of what it used to be and what it is now, right? Our goal is to always try to show the evolution of the brand from where we picked it up and to where it is now, right? Just to kind of like project this confidence and in our quality and consistency. All right, now so now that we've talked about Camacho, the history, if you guys have any questions, I guess we'll open it up a little bit later while we have our little sips of rum. But let's move into just the battle between American Barrel Aged and Nicaraguan Barrel Aged, right? All right, we have it here. Can you see it? All right, go to the next one. All right, so yeah, this is a short video on the American Barrel Aged, which looks like a movie trailer. Unfortunately, I could share that with Roy, and he could share this presentation with you guys. I have no problem with it. I made this one for some virtual events that we have here in the U.S., but this one's modified for you guys, so you can share it with you. There's no confidential stuff there. So this is just pretty much showing just a teaser video on the American Barrel Aged that, like I said, it was launched back in 2015. Right? All right, go to the next slide. Not the one that I'm smoking right now. I'm smoking a Nicaraguan Barrel Aged right now. But just the blend breakdown. So about 95% of this cigar is American tobacco, right? It's American broadleaf on the wrapper, on the binder, and then the filler is a combination between American broadleaf, Pennsylvania Maduro, and the original Corojo, which is the one that is aged in the bourbon barrels for 6 months, or 5 months actually, on the distilleries that we use 6 months. But on this one, it's 5 months. Now, and we started the project using bullet bourbon barrels, right, back in the day. So we had about 40 barrels of the Bullet Bourbon, and this is actually the one that we used for that one. They have a Bullet Rye and Bullet 10, but this is the actual one that we used for the first project. And then we changed to, I believe we're using Jim Beam right now. The barrels, you can only use them, we use them twice, and after that we have to let them go. So this one, so just imagine the process of this cigar, right? Launch in 2015, not being produced in our factory. If this one is being, like I said, it's being made in the Dominican Republic. We had to ship the barrels from the U.S. to Dominican Republic. We had to ship the 6-year-old Corojo from Honduras to the Dominican Republic, and then have all this process made in the Dominican Republic, and then from there shipped, overseas to obviously our distribution centers in Europe and also here in the U.S. So the journey of this cigar, it's a long one, and on top of that, like I mentioned before, the tobacco is used in pretty much all of our cigars. They're about 5 years old, so it just takes a long time for this one to get going. And then this one, it's a medium to full body, right? To me, I do smoke probably 5-6 cigars a day. So to me, it's more of a medium to full, right? To some other people that I've shared this cigar with, they think it's a full body. I should have started with this one first, but this would be my favorite one, right? I don't know if you guys have had this one, but I like Churchill's, right? And this is, I don't know if you can see it. So yeah, this is the Torpedo Largo. Now this is a big American barrel aged cigar. This is the biggest one we have, right? And I smoke quick, but I like to smoke for a good hour or so. And this is just the perfect one for me, right? And then the draw. So we had this one at the beginning. We launched it in the 3 best-selling sizes: Robusto, Toro, and Gordo, right? The launch did so well that we created these artisan sizes, which is like a short Perfecto that looks like... you ever smoked a Arturo Fuente short story or bestseller? It's that size. We have this one, which is the Torpedo Largo, and then we do have a Perfecto, which is it kind of looks like a Davidoff Diadema, but just a little bit smaller. So 6 different sizes on that one. They're all available. I'm sure Roy has access to all of those. And in
the UK, we just do the Toro and the Robusto.
Just do the Toro and Robusto?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, you guys are missing out on some other ones there. But if you guys, travel abroad and you can get your hands on a few of those, definitely worth trying. All right, let's see what we have next.
So these are all the sizes which they have in the US?
Those are the other sizes that I was mentioning. So yeah, the short Torpedo or Torpedo Corto, you have the Perfecto Gordo, Torpedo Largo, and then the other 3 best-selling sizes. So it's a great lineup on this one, right? Pretty much hits everybody, whatever time you have or just, size, ring gauge, and all that stuff. So these are they all smoke differently, right? You guys look like seasoned cigar smokers, and you see that if you have the same blend, if you smoke it in a Robusto, that Robusto will taste a little bit stronger than if you were to smoke a Churchill per se on that same cigar. It has to do with the ring gauge, the combustion of the cigar, the way that it smokes and all that. So they change a little bit. So that's why this one, it's the same blend, just spread out in 6 different formats, right? Right, if you go ahead next. Another little teaser on the Nicaraguan barrel age. So basically, with this one, didn't you say we were gonna have somebody from Flor de Caña? Roy?
Sorry?
You mentioned that we were gonna have a guest from Flor de Caña?
I can't.
You were cut up. Anyway, so this one, the Nicaraguan barrel age, we by then, which was back in 2017, we already had kind of like mastered the barrel aging process, right? We learned all the techniques. Our factory was already up and running in Honduras, so now this one is produced in Honduras. Okay, it's the same process, the tobacco, the one leaf of the filler is aged in the rum barrels, and now these rum barrels we handpicked them in Nicaragua from Flor de Caña, and then the Flor de Caña that we the barrels that we use is for Flor de Caña 25, right? I have a little 18 here because the 25 is a little over my budget. But the 18, from what I've tried in terms of the flavor of the rum, it's just outstanding. But for the cigar aging purposes, we use the Flor de Caña 25. So we have I counted. I was there in February. I counted about 25 barrels of Flor de Caña. And then now this one, the blend changes a little bit. We use our Habano 2000 Ecuadorian wrapper on that one, which is a great wrapper. Very it burns well. The flavor profile, it's amazing. And then this one, it's the same wrapper that we use on our Ecuador, for example, right? And then we have the binder. It's Negrito San Andres, which is a Mexican binder that we buy from the Torrent brothers in Mexico, and it's a blend, a tobacco strain that we also use in our Triple Maduro. Okay. And then the combination of the filler is where the magic happens. So you have San Vicente that we use in some of our Davidoff cigars. You have Piloto Cubano, which is a very sweet tobacco that we grow in the Dominican Republic. And then you have Corojo 99 from Nicaragua. All right, so this tobacco is grown in Nicaragua. It's one of the new strains of Corojo that evolved from when I mentioned that they had to create new strains to be mold resistant. This is one of the strains that came out of that one, the Corojo 99. That's when 99 marking the year when it was when that strain was released. So there's a combination of this one. So you have 5 different blends of tobacco, and then the other one you had 3, right? And 95% of it was American tobacco. So this one, it's again medium to full bodied. But I think on the next slide we'll have just how different they are. Let me see. I think I put it on the next slide, Roy. Just the combination and flavors and the difference between each other. I think should be there.
Trying to get it to move.
Yeah. It's stuck.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay, so these two. Yeah, I mean that slide explains it. I think it should be the next one.
You see it now?
Actually, yeah. Well, but now it shows the so this one, it came later in the game, right? And then at a time, some things have happened that we just didn't want to create a new set of formats for this one. So this one we just did the 3 best-selling sizes: Robusto, Toro, and Gordo. All right. So if you guys can see this one, you see the combination in terms of flavor profile, right? So the Nicaraguan, the American barrel aged, the one on the left, you'll see a little more on the sweet side, some nuttiness, some creaminess, a little bit of wood, not too much pepper, not too much neutral, earthy, neutral, natural flavor notes. But on the so this one's gonna be oakier, just drier, right? You can also see it on the wrapper on these American broadleafs. It's the wrapper. The Nicaraguan barrel aged seems as to have an oilier wrapper because of this Habano 2000 that we use. But this one is going to be on the woodier notes, some more spiciness, just and then increased sweetness because of the rum and the sugar cane that is used in the rum. So you have a little combination. You get a lot more earthy notes on the Nicaraguan barrel aged as well. So it's just a combination of flavors. It's great when you can have both of them. Like for example, in Honduras, when we do our Camacho, the last night, which is the Friday night, we do have a cigar tasting right at a restaurant, and then this is exactly what we do. We compare. Actually, this slide is the slide right here. It's part of a placemat that people go and then as they're smoking it, and over there we pair it also with the bullet bourbon, and we have our little tasting glasses, and we go through the process of tasting it with the with the cigar, with the bourbon, and then I use a little technique that I call smoky bourbon, right? So pretty much I put the bourbon and then I blow smoke into the glass and then cover it up and leave it for about 60 seconds, right? And then that just kind of eliminates that potency that the alcohol has, and it just like mellows it down, and it's been very successful just because people get to taste the fusion between these two, which usually you get that at craft cocktail bars. They go and they smoke, but they don't usually, obviously for hygiene purposes, the bartender is not going to blow smoke into your glass and then do your thing. So that's something that's very personal. But that's, if you guys want to try that at home, by all means, I recommend it. Grab a coaster, grab a glass neat. Don't do any ice or anything, and then just leave it, let it rest for a good 60 seconds or so, and then you'll get that flavor profile of the fusion of the two. So that's something that I really enjoy doing. I don't remember where I picked it up. I was probably attending a seminar or something like that. I know, actually, I think I picked it up in Tennessee when I was doing the American Barrel Aged Road Tour. I think it was in Tennessee that I picked it up. Somebody gave me that little trick, so worked out fine. All right, what do we have next?
That was it. That was the presentation.
That was it, right? That was the last one. The other one was open up to questions.
Questions, yeah. We've got a few.
Okay. I trimmed it up so we kept it nice and short but informative.
Thank you. Sorry for the technical issues for those who have joined us. And sometimes it's the conversion from Mac to an HP, which doesn't always like it that much.
Yeah.
We got there in the end. We've got a couple of questions that came in. The first one was from Tom. What's the best way to introduce something a bit different to the market?
Well, I'll tell you what we did here, right? When we introduced the first of all, the line of the brand of Camacho in general, we hit it heavy, right? We were in every store. We did, I think that first year we did about 175 events in a matter of 6 months. There was a time where we were running 2-3 events that same day at the same time, and just out there, social media and all that stuff, right? Also, you could do in the transition of the brands. One of the things that I would do is, for example, we had our Corojo. The 3 that I used to use was Corojo, Connecticut, and Triple Maduro. I would take the bands off the new one, right? Because we had that little misconception. People were like, "Oh no, it's a new Camacho, it's a new blend, blah blah blah. It doesn't taste the same." All because they had a new label on it, right? So we did these little tests of having an old Camacho, right? An old Triple Maduro, for example, and then a new Triple Maduro. You take the bands off, the cigar looks exactly the same. So we would do these tests with people, and people would try it, and then they would love the new one and hate the old one because they were confused. They didn't know at that point. They didn't trust their palate. They just trusted whatever label they would see on the cigar, right? So that's another one that we did that I did a few times throughout the country, because also kind of my job was to go and buy out whatever they had of the old Camacho, which I ended up having a substantial amount of old Camacho left. I still have some jewels, some Triple Maduros, some SLRs and Diplomas and all that stuff. So, but yeah, that doing that test of removing the band from the cigar, because the branding on it has a huge impact into what the person expects from the cigar, right? And then just associated with experiences and stuff like that, and flavor profiles that get marked in your brain. But once you remove that, it just it's literally your palate. Another one that I would do while I was doing these, I would set up big tables with about 10 people. I would blindfold them, right? So 10 people or 12 people sitting on this big table, blindfolded, and then they would go through this test, right? Blindfolded, no bands. They would, and then part of the test was for them to guess which blend they were smoking. If it was the Corojo, the Trip Maduro, or the Connecticut. And then once you do that, it's just, and I saw it many times. People don't know what the hell they're smoking. Right. Once you take the band off and they can't see the cigar, they can't see the wrapper, because if you see the wrapper on the Trip Maduro, it's darker, right? It's a bit of an intimidating cigar. But if you are blindfolded, you just literally just smoking the cigar. I had a lot of people that thought that was the Connecticut, right? So that goes to show you a little bit. So those are some of the tricks, and then also we did just our road tours, right? I like I said earlier, I traveled for about 3 years throughout the country, 46 states, just hundreds and hundreds of events, and that's pretty much what brought Camacho to life, right? At least in this in this market. So that's just how we launched Camacho, and that's how we introduced Camacho to the market.
Perfect. I know we've got one or two people on the call from Flor de Cana, John and Matteo. Would any of you guys like to talk a little bit about Flor de Cana 25? Matteo or John?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, Matteo.
Hello, well, good evening to you all. We are a bit restricted as we're in furlough, but it would be great to communicate that. Yeah, 25, it's our crown jewel. So we launched last year the 30-year-old single cask from 1988, which is the oldest of our range. It's called Cinco Generaciones, so just representing the 5 generations of the family. But the one that we have most of the time, which is the oldest of our range, is the 25. So it's nearly 3 decades into our ex-bourbon barrel. So as you can say, that we get from Kentucky. So it's second fill, and then, you just stay naturally aging in the warehouse in Nicaragua. A completely full body rum. It has lovely notes of chocolates, coffee, like caramel, which is just make it really, really unique, really palatable. I will say full body. So I was like really, really keen to hear that then you guys purchased, that actual barrel, and then, you aged your tobacco in it. So I believe that cigar for me is going to be like a world #1 cigar, because it's so unique. And I'm like, lately, Flor de Cana 25 is won double gold medal in the San Francisco Spirit competition and also in the Madrid Rum Conference. So we're having a great momentum with the brand. We are honored to continue driving this brand. It's our 130-year anniversary this year. And we like to see the partnerships of what other people are doing with our rum or with the cask or the pairings, actually. We're very honored to be in this call, and thank you for having us as well.
Thank you, Matteo. Matteo also had a question, which I think you already answered during the presentation. How long are the tobacco leaves aged in the Flor de Cana 25 barrel?
Those are 5 months. We age them for 5 months. And then it's a standard fermentation process. So it's a bit of a pain in the butt, because to open up these barrels, you need 3 guys, right? And so we put about, I would say, so a bale ranges anywhere from 100 to 120 pounds of tobacco, right? Depending on the size of the leaf and all that stuff. Let's just say about 100. So we put 100 pounds of tobacco in these barrels, right? And pretty much for the fermentation to happen, that magic that tobacco has, everything, the whole barrel, the entire tobacco has to reach the center, the core, right? That's where the humidity and the temperature and then the magic happens, the whole fermentation process. So every 2 weeks, the guys have to come in, open up these barrels, and switch the tobacco around so that everything in the barrel, those 100 pounds of tobacco, reach the center. So it's a very tedious process, because you can't label the leaves that are in there. You can barely touch them. You can just move them around. So it's something that is the same guys that know what they did, and they have these patterns that they move either the first third up to the top and then back and forth and move it around. So I'm astonished every time that I go there and I see them doing this stuff. I'm like, how do you keep track of this? But it's one of the beauties of of our rollers and all the supervisors and everything that goes on in the factory. So yeah, these 100 pounds of tobacco that go in there, they get moved around, and so that the fermentation happens just as it would in these big 2,000 pound pilones, right? So that's and that happens within a period of 6 months.
And when we buy the barrels, is there still any liquid left in the barrel?
No, pretty much. When we purchase the barrels, there's this when you age rum, bourbon in the barrels, right? And then you just say you wait 25 years. There's angel's share, right? What evaporates, right? And whatever you have left after that amount of time, it could be 8 years, 12 years, 15 years, 25 years, whatever it is. It's a reduced amount of alcohol, right? And that is what you bottle, right? And then after that, the barrel, it's pretty much picked up what the devil's cut, which is what the wood absorbed, right? And then that is when we put the tobacco in the barrels, the tobacco absorbs this devil's cut, right? But there's only so much that the barrel could hold, so we can use it on 2 times. We cannot use it 3 times because all the devil's cut has been already soaked from just absorbed by the tobacco. So yeah, that's there's no, it's not an infusion, it's not a flavoring or anything. It's just letting the tobacco rest there, do its thing while it's absorbing the devil's cut from the barrels. And the same process for the Flor de Caña barrels, and the same as the American Barrel Aged with the bourbon barrels.
So what happens to the barrels afterwards? Do you refill them with rum to give the flavor back? Or
well, no. So a majority of them, they get refurbished, and for example, we use them as furniture in our Camp Camacho guest house, right? So we have this beautiful setup outside that has like about 8 to 10 barrels of bourbon, and then we made them into tables and stuff like that. Other than that, I think they just get disassembled and then used around the factory, right? Some other ones, there's a small craft brewery thing going on in at least in Danlí. Danlí is very rural, right? So after this, you could definitely use those barrels for beer. But Honduras is a little outdated, and especially in Danlí, there's not that much of of that going on. So I believe that we sold or we just gave the barrels to a small brewery just to help them out. But other than that, there's no really use for us. Because by the time we ship them out or we resell them, the shipping cost of just taking it to the middle of nowhere in Danlí, Honduras, it's just a little too much. So no, either furniture, they get dismantled to just use for props for the house, or they just get just given away basically. But for the most part, I think we use them around the factory. Very little stuff goes to waste in the factory and the farm.
And how many cigars do you normally get out of one barrel? You say 100 pounds, so how many cigars would that normally make?
So it's about, and remember, so we use 1 leaf of the filler. So these 100 pounds, they get broken down into 1 leaf of the filler. So you're talking about 6,000 cigars, more or less. About 6,000 cigars.
That's a good amount.
Per barrel. Yeah. So it's just a little bit. It's just a little hint. You know what I mean? It's not like I said before. It's not an infusion. It's not a flavoring. It's just it just adds these little notes and makes that the harmony of the blend that much better. And
you mentioned for the American Barrel Aged that we initially used Bullet Rye bourbon and
Bullet Bourbon. Just
Bullet Bourbon. And then you moved to Jim Beam. But how much does that impact the taste of the cigar? The different flavor profiles?
It is so the devil's cut in the barrels. It's so minimal in terms of the taste. You get pretty much the notes, but you can't really nail down a flavor profile from the devil's cut, right? So all that stuff, all the blending and everything that went into the actual liquid that was inside the barrel, that's where the whole difference you would see it. But once it get absorbed, you just get the broad notes the rum or the bourbon. So that's what gets absorbed by the cigars. So you could pretty much use any barrel because you will not define the blend or the flavor notes from the brand. So it's pretty much and that's why after that they use them for beers, right? Because it's the same process. Yeah.
Mostly we use Floridana 25, so technically you could also use Floridana 18 or 12-year-old to make a similar cigar.
You could, but just like we did with American Barrel Aged, we wanted to like come in with a bang with this one. Yeah. So we had Dylan. So Dylan went down to Nicaragua and actually had a meeting with the family, and that's how they came to this agreement of purchasing the barrels of 25. For a 25-year Florida Caña, right? I was not there in that meeting, but that's what actually he told me, that he's like, I can guarantee you that those are the 25-year blah blah blah, because he went and handpicked them, and the same process has kept going, since that first meeting.
So now I feel a distillery edition coming on with the 30-year-old Floridana.
Hey, that I just found that out from Mateo. I didn't even know they had a 30-year. Oh, I'm sure there's a price. There's a price tag.
Yeah, they're very limited production, I think. But yeah.
Yeah.
You get 2 barrels. It's 12,000 cigars.
Yeah. It would be a slightly higher priced Camacho.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A question from Tom. So, how do you bunch the filler leaves? Is it the harmonica? Is it the tubing?
No, so we use on the it's an entubado process. Pretty much, it's not the. So pretty much you grab and then they're not. So you grab the 3 parts of the filler, right? So the 3 leaves, and then you bunch them together, right? And then you cut the both parts of the top and the bottom. But yeah, it's not a I have the other style of bunching in the tip of my tongue, but I forgot. So
have the folding as they do with the Orthodox, so kind of the harmonica fold.
It's exactly, yes. So that's what we use for both, for the American Barrel Aged and the Nicaraguan Barrel Aged. And that one is just the result in terms of the draw, for example. It's very similar, right? But just what that changes a little bit is the roller coaster of the flavor profiles that the cigar gives you in that experience, right? So if you have those 45 minutes, some bunching process gives you just a steady flavor profile, right? Just a straight line experience, and then the other one can give you a little bit of a roller coaster where you'll start picking up some notes of sweetness and going into the second, third, and so on and so forth. So that's what pretty much the bunching styles come into play. But the draw and stuff, the draw has to be perfect regardless of whichever bunching process you use. It's just the experience in the cigar that changes a little bit.
Peter had a question in regards to other spirits. So would you ever look at doing other spirits such as Scotch whiskey, for example? It's kind of developed us, I guess, with the late hour.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. We have the late hour, and it would be kind of like cannibalizing our what we do. No, I'm not gonna say no, because I don't know. I don't think so, honestly. At least not right now. Especially with everything that's going on with the FDA, it's become very tough to come out with new blends, right, and new cigars, and it would really have to make sense financially to make a commitment to come out with a new line, right? For example, you have I have here that I want to show you guys the Camacho Nicaraguan. You have a Nicaraguan Barrel Aged, and then you have the Camacho Nicaragua, right? Now this one, we're just launching it right now, but we had a substantial equivalency submitted for that one about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, right? So everything that you start seeing now, at least from big companies and reliable companies like us, it's stuff that has already been, we planned 2 or 3 years ahead. You know what I mean? So all this stuff was in the works before we even, found out the color of the band. So that's the problem. And then to start with something with whiskey, for example, with Scotch, it's just going to be a little tough given the circumstances now with the FDA. I'm not going to say no, but as of right now, we haven't committed to exploring that angle of spirits yet. Maybe do something with wine. I don't know. It's just it's there. You know what I mean? Like for example. Yeah, like for example, triple Maduro goes very well with like some cabs, right? That triple Maduro is very versatile in terms of pairing it with wines, and that's just my spirit of choice when my drink of choice when I'm gonna smoke a triple Maduro. It's a good Cabernet or a Bordeaux. It depends. It has to be a red wine. I tried it with white wines and rosés and stuff like that, and no. So that could be another thing that we could do in the future. But as of right now, we have ABA, NBA, and distillery.
Yeah. And how many barrels at one time are used by Camacho for the Nicaraguan barrel aged?
Okay, so that all depends in terms of sellout, right? Like I said, we had about 20 barrels of the Nicaraguan barrel age, if I'm not wrong, when I went to Honduras last. I was in the middle of my Camp Camachos and we had to cancel because of obviously with the whole pandemic going on. About 20, but I have seen that number. Like when we launched it, for example, we needed 40 barrels, right? So it depends the sellout and then the ordering. So we work on forecasts. Pretty much we see the numbers this year and then we kind of forecast next year as to how many we think we're going to sell, and that gets digested and spread out and see, okay, we're going to need these much barrels, we're going to need these many bales of tobacco to make this one blend in particular. So that is it's just tough. It depends how much we sell in the current year, so we can try to aim the best forecast possible for the next year. But in terms of tobacco, we have, at least if we were to just stick to this one blend and use the same, have the same recipe per se, the same ingredients for the recipe, we have, enough for the next 4 years without even having to buy a bale of tobacco from anybody. But then again, that goes, you have to put that Corojo into the barrels, and that starts a different process. But in terms of just the ingredients for the recipe, we have, up to 4 years of tobacco. So we have plenty of that one.
Tom had a question. He wanted to hear a bit more about the Distillery Blend, which was released late last year.
The distillery, oh man, I had it inside. I didn't bring them out. I have like a bunch of other things here. So distillery, it's the same blend as the original. As the originals, right? So you have the Connecticut, which is your Connecticut Ecuadorian wrapper. You have your Honduran Corojo binder, and then the filler is a combination between Generoso and Alemán Ligero. So that blend stays the same, right? Now we grab the binder, for example, which is original Corojo, and that we age in the bourbon barrels, right? And that's pretty much all that changes in that blend. We don't touch the original recipe. We just grab one of the ingredients and age it in the barrels and then put it back in, right? And that's what gives that little nuance of flavor. You have the same thing for the Ecuador and the same thing for the Corojo. The Corojo, since it's a Honduran Puro, wrapper, binder, and filler, it's all Corojo. And that one is just part of the filler that gets aged in the barrel, right? The other one was the binder. So wherever you see Corojo in the blend, that is the ingredient that gets aged in the barrel and then put back into the recipe. Basically, these recipes I'm talking about because when a roller and a buncher come into the distribution of tobacco window at the factory, right? They get these bags with enough tobacco to make 200 cigars, right? So right there you have your filler, your wrapper, and your binder, everything. It's not that they go and like, oh my god, I need a little more of this. No, so they're given this bag that weighs X amount, and then we know how many cigars exactly they're gonna make out of that bag, right? So that's how that works. So it just we don't change that blend. So like I said, when we put this aged tobacco back into that bag to make this amount of tobacco, amount of cigars, nothing really changes other than just aging that. So that's pre. I don't want to say pre-industry, because pre-industry fits at the farm, but you know, right when it gets from the farm into the factory, so they go into these fermentation rooms. That is where we make the decision of like, okay, this Corojo is for NBA. We need it here. That's gonna go into the barrels, and we're gonna use it there. So that's pretty much. But other than that, it's the same blend. And they only come in Toro. You know, the wrapper, binder, and filler is the same blends as the original ones for the distillery series.
What bourbon is being used?
So, what difference does it make between having the binder as the using it as a binder or using it as the filler? It's
so subtle. What the devil's cut of the barrel does to the tobacco, it's so subtle that it wouldn't affect it. Now, it would affect it if we were to age the wrapper into the barrels, right? That may affect it a little bit more, but that's why we use either a filler or the binder. It's the same process, more or less. It's just the quality of tobacco that changes it up a little bit, but the flavor profile, it's the same.
I've got one here. It's a distillery edition. This is the Ecuador, which I got from somewhere. In the UK, we only have the Connecticut edition.
The Connecticut, I in my opinion, I think is the best one in terms of getting that flavor profile, right? Getting those bourbon notes. Just because the other ones, you do have stronger tobaccos, right? That have a lot more character, because they've been affected by the nutrients and the elements a little bit more. So that tobacco has a lot more nicotine, has a lot more strength. And then the bourbon part of it is so subtle that, you know, some people, they just love the blend with in the Connecticut, in the Ecuador and the Corojo, just because of that little hint that they get. But I think even when you open up the box and you get the cigars out of the cellophane, you can smell it even more on the Connecticut in particular. To me, out of the three, the Connecticut is my favorite one, the Connecticut distillery.
And what bourbon is used for the distillery edition?
Jim Beam.
Jim Beam as well, yeah.
Like I said, it's very subtle that you really could use any bourbon and it'll give you the same effect.
You just mentioned the Camacho Nicaragua, which is being released in August. Can you tell us a little bit more about the blend for that and the idea behind it?
So that one, we needed to tackle the Nicaraguan market, right? And what we call a core line. A little bit more price attractive than the ABA and ABA and NBA. So pretty much that one, and also the Nicaragua. This one is not barrel aged, so we needed something. That one actually has just it's in the Nicaraguan filler that's in there. You have a Honduran binder, and then it's got a Habano wrapper. Right, so it'll be a very similar profile to the Ecuador in terms of the wrapper and stuff. But it's just the Nicaraguan filler that makes it, you know, in terms of flavor profile, a little bit different from what we already have in our portfolio. That one is going to come out in three different sizes. You have your Robusta. Hold on. So you have your Robusta, right? Your Toro, and then this one is a Grand Churchill. So this is a quite the stick. It's a beast, right? So it's got the size of a Churchill. It's like a 52, 53 ring gauge. It's a very thick smoke. So this one you'll be in it for about an hour and change. And that I smoke quick. But the flavor profile, medium to full, on the fuller side actually. And that I smoke a lot. That these are they pack a little bit more punch than the Corojo per se. But yeah, so that one, and this was going to be available just globally. It's not a limited edition or anything. It's just going to become part of our core, just to add to our core line, which is just our core line is what keeps us in business. You know, in terms of Camacho, yeah, ABA sells and NBA sells, but not like the other ones. So we needed to add a little bit more to that portfolio and expand it a little bit with some Nicaraguan tobacco in there, just to try to stay competitive with everybody else. Nicaragua's pretty hot in terms of producing tobacco, so we needed to get in that game.
Where's the Nicaraguan tobacco come from? Is it Esteli? Is it Jalapa? Ometepe?
Ometepe.
Ometepe, yeah. So it's got a bit more of a citrusy note to it.
Yeah, I don't have I would have to look for it now, but I had a slide on the just some of the notes and stuff like that. I still have to do my own tastings and stuff. I'll probably
your own assessment of it.
Yeah, my little assessment, and try it with a couple different spirits and stuff. I have my little ritual that I have to go through, and also you guys will probably get. Actually, you guys in Europe got the first batch of Liberties 2020. Let me see. Here's beauty.
Yeah.
Right. And then, this one is the Liberty 2020. Every year we come out with one. This will be the 18th year that we come out with Liberty. And the blend on that one, it's got some Habana wrapper, Honduran fillers, and some Dominican tobaccos in the filler as well. Honduran binder, and that one, the kind of unique thing about this one, and this is the first time that we come out with a box press. So it's a Gordo, and it's box press, right? So the draw on this one is just sublime. I personally like box press cigars. There's something about it that I really enjoy, and this one being a Gordo, it's just the draw. It just puts out a lot of smoke. I really enjoyed this blend. Next year's Liberty will be a little bit different as well, and something that we've never done before. Won't disclose what we're doing on that one yet, but yeah. So this one has been a home run. We launched it probably like 3 weeks ago, if that. And for obvious reasons, we saw a big push right now for 4th of July and all that stuff. So we kind of in honor to the birth of America. So that's why the Liberty's always around, and we always try to make something exceptional in terms of packaging and just the blend that we use on those cigars in particular. It's just tobacco that is put aside for a while. And we get to pick the best. Then we have our master blender in Honduras. It's a lady, right? You guys probably would. I don't know if you know Patty. So Patricia has been with Camacho for about 26 years now, since she was a very young girl. And these projects are the ones that she takes personal, just pride in them, with the Liberties and the Diplomas. So the Diplomas that we just launched in the past 3 years, that we had the Black Pillar, the Black Series Diploma, the 3 different ones. Those are her personal blends that she made sure that they tasted the same as they did back in the day, right? And she would know, she's the one that blended it back in the day. So that's the kind of care that goes into the Liberties and the Diplomas, but mostly the Liberties, because she makes sure that if, for example, we had the 2012 and the throwback 2005, she knows those blends because she created them back in the day. So she made sure that they were the same blends that we're using now as they were back in the day. So that's just a little info there, so you can see once again the quality and consistency of what we do. Is just it sets us apart from the rest of the pack. But Camacho is not an expensive brand, right? So to put all this effort and all this time into these into just the care of the tobacco that goes into the cigars, it requires requires a little bit of time, and time translates into money because you have to wait, right? But that's what we try to do with Camacho. We cut no corners in terms of the aging of the tobacco, right?
I think that's a little bit of the difference between the US maybe and the UK is the taxation on cigars. So the taxation in the UK is based on weight. So making a Gordo, for example, the reason why we didn't do that edition, the Liberty edition 2020 in the UK, because once we calculated the price, it would be £30 plus for one cigar on a Camacho. So that was maybe a bit.
So it's the weight of the cigar?
It's the weight of the cigar, yeah.
Okay, then yeah.
So for bigger formats, normally not that price sensitive.
Because, I mean, if you pick them up, it's like, come on, man, they're not. You're talking about not much. If you put I don't know, another the 1118s that we've used in the past compared to this Gordo, it's like, come on. But yeah, I mean, if that's that, I didn't know that fact.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
It's 296 pounds per kilogram of tobacco. So for Robusto, for example, that adds 4 pounds of tax on top of a cigar already.
And it has to do something. I think when I was doing my FDA stuff, I think there's something to do with the origin of the cigar. Like 70% of it has to be from a certain origin. Is there
that's EU law? Yeah, that's something.
Okay.
But normally Switzerland deals with that. So yeah, if we look at introducing new cigars, then they need to be 70% origin from here, there, or the other to be able to.
Yeah, interesting, man. All these laws just to kind of deprive us from smoking our cigars. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, hey, government needs to make money, I guess.
Believe me.
Does anybody have any more questions for George while we're still here? I think it's been a very informative session. So
Just one, Roy. Hi,
sure.
George. Who designed your packaging? Because I've got a shelf of cigar boxes, and the Camachos stand out with their beautiful shiny lacquer and the coloring. They just look fantastic.
Yeah, that's that. So when I do my presentations in person, that I go to stores and train, we stand out in the sea of brown, right? So the packaging, the design of it, it was a lot of kind of studies between what consumers like, how to make them stand out from the rest of the pack. That's why we added the colors to it. The bold Camacho name on the label just stands out because it's easier for consumers to find. So we partner up with an ad agency in New York named Colangelo, right? And that's the agency that helped us pretty much just to rebrand the whole brand and relaunch it. And that's pretty much what we make cigars. They put their expertise, which is creating a product that and then Colangelo. So they work with. If you went to their office, they have Chop and Chop for Johnny Walker. They work with Belvedere. They work with Jameson. They with Guinness, which is how we got connected. Prior to Dylan Austin being the president of the U.S., it was Jim Young, which he's now in Basel, and Jim was the president of Guinness USA, right? So he's the one that put Davidoff in contact with his company that he used to use before, which is Colangelo, and that's how this whole thing started. So it was not a cheap thing to do, to rebrand Camacho and to make it look the way it is right now with all the studies and everything that went through. So yeah, it was a it was an ad agency that pretty much designed the relaunch. Obviously, everything was approved because actually by Dylan, because Dylan was the brand manager of Camacho back in the day, and Dylan came from Camacho. So with the merger and the purchase of Davidoff buying Camacho, Dylan used to work with Camacho before. So he pretty much, I think he started working with Camacho back in 2004. And then since then, so he already had a few things in mind of what he wanted to change from Camacho. And then when he got the opportunity, and with the help of this agency, we created this beautiful brand that we have now, and then the quality of the boxes, 14 coats of lacquer, just attention to detail. So, you can see it from a mile away. If you open it up, now people are starting to do this, a little description, the flavor profiles, the origin of the cigars, right? And then, just even the detail on the hinges as well. It's a lot of work, and now you just take it for granted, but it took a while. And we did get a little bit of a reluctancy when we launched it. People were like, "Oh my God, you guys and your colors, your rainbow, and it just looks, they look tacky. It's not cigar, it doesn't look it's not classy." That we did not want to go classy with Camacho. And then I think we've done a great job in terms of, like you said, you go into a store wherever, and then you can see them right away. And there's been other brands that have copied our color scheme, and wherever you go, you can see a Camacho box from a mile away. You know, even if the box is closed, you see the color, you see the lid and everything. And all of our boxes are pretty much the same style, right? There's other brands that come out with different type of boxes, and you have to really get close to the cigar and see the label on the cigar to see what brand it is. Basically, we've been copied throughout the years, and now labels are getting bigger. Cigar bands are getting bigger, boxes are getting brighter. I guess imitation is the biggest form of flattery nowadays. So that's pretty much. So yeah, it was a combination between Dylan that came from Camacho and the ad agency that helped us put this impactful packaging together.
The final question to kind of round it off. The Scorpion, where did that come from?
So the Scorpion is native to Honduras, especially in that area in Danlí. They are pretty much everywhere, right? Sometimes we get them just crawling around the house in our house in Honduras. People freak out about that, but it's just very native to the area. Right, and then that's one of the other things that the brand, this agency studied in Honduras. They went into a little bit of like, what are the roots of this area, right? What's native to that? And then you had some other animals and stuff, and it was like the scorpion. The scorpion is bold. It's always the fighter. It's not it's got zero cuddle factor. It's just this very bold a creature that just represents the DNA of the brand. And it was perfect because they're just native to Honduras, and native to that area of Honduras in particular. So that's pretty much how that. It was just the boldness of the Scorpion that was that went hand on hand with Camacho.
Perfect, Mitchell. I think we're closing the session. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, it was very interesting. I just want to ask, Camacho's the brand that I think we have a big following in the biker community, isn't it? In the Harley.
Correct, yeah, Harley Davidson, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite phenomenal how many bikers we've got buying Camacho. Yeah. How do you get a following by all these Harley riders?
Yeah, it was somehow, and it was not designed to be that, but just the bold persona fits very well with the bikers. Like I said before, the national road tours that I did, I had 2 bikes on the trailer, at all times. We gave away 3 or 4 bikes throughout that 3-year span. So it's very biker oriented, just because of that boldness of the brand itself. It was not designed to be a biker cigar, but even here we have a lot of, and I handle the social media for Camacho and Avo, so I'm on Instagram, and everything that I get tagged on and stuff it has to do with bikes or mechanics. So it is very bold. But yeah, it's a biker brand, for some reason. It appeals to that brotherhood, right? Those clubs that they get formed with these bikers. And I don't know who handles the Camacho Cigars Switzerland, because I guess when they want to tag them, they tag us here, and so I see their feed, and it's bike. I mean, you guys, they're doing some crazy stuff over there. It's very interesting.
I know we've done some amazingly successful events at Harley Davidson in a few different locations that were massively well attended. You've obviously positioned it in that niche very well somehow or other, whether it was luck or design. So well done. I mean, it's been very interesting listening to you talk about the Camacho brand. So I'd like to, on behalf of Cigars, thank you very much indeed. We love selling Camacho.
Not a problem.
Because of my background, I'm Christian from the early days, and obviously our close relationship with Davidoff. And it's interesting that you're involved in Avo as well, because we're exclusive on Avo in the UK, and that's another brand that we absolutely love. So 2 very cool brands indeed.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you guys want, we can talk Avo. You know what I mean? Yeah, now we have the classic Maduro and all the other ones that we have. Our Improv 2020, which is an outstanding cigar. Whenever you guys want to do that, by all means.
We did a session last week actually with Sam Reuter.
Oh, with Sam? Oh,
yeah,
okay,
with Sam on the Avo Improvisation 2019 and 2020. and the difference.
Awesome. I love Sam,
Yeah,
man. Such a knowledgeable person.
He is,
I love the
That's awesome. All right, so
improvisation.
you guys took care of that.
I love the
Perfect, that's good.
improvisation because that has been one of our most successful cigars ever. I mean, Roy, I think you'll back me up when I say we literally couldn't get them in fast enough.
Exactly, yeah.
But that's a big cigar for, you know, for UK wise, a pretty damn good price.
Yeah. And it's so mild, too creamy. The blend is delicious on that one.
Yeah, that's what I like. I like a big mild cigar. I can't handle the heavy cigars. I mean, Camacho is, for me, it's a very full-bodied cigar. The improvisation I find very accessible by comparison. But, you know, horses for courses. So, anyway,
especially
thank you very much indeed, George.
Thank you guys for having me.
Roy in the studio, as ever, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
And thanks to our viewers. Anybody else have any questions at all? Any bikers out there?
Yeah, any bikers out there?
Roy, sorry, just a final one whilst we're talking about Mitchell struggling with the strength. What do you think your strongest cigar is?
From Camacho?
Yeah.
Camacho will probably be the Triple Maduro.
The Triple Maduro, but it's funny because the Triple Maduro, because it goes through the fermentation process, and then the three components of the cigar go through the fermentation process, which means sugars come out, sweetness, right? There's a big decrease in terms of strength in the tobaccos, and then you put this together, the cigar becomes a medium to full. Now, because again, you have the packaging, you have the darker wrapper, that just, it looks intimidating. I think you guys may not have this one over there. We have it here. Is the Camacho Coilar, right? The Camacho Coilar will be the most intense Camacho out there. That one is just, you're smoking, it's like, whoa, it kicks your ass. But that was what that line in particular was designed to be, a super, strong, impactful, bold flavor cigar. And we have that one, and I think it's 5 different formats. But that would be it. Triple Maduro, yes, is up there, but it's up there by definition, not by flavor or profile. I think possibly the Corojo would have a little bit more strength to it. The diplomas also have a little bit more strength to it because even though it's Corojo tobacco, we use higher primings on those blends, and we use a little bit of that Corona that I was talking about earlier, the top of the plant. We use that in some of the fillers to kind of raise the strength of the cigar. But yeah, I mean, the Triple Maduro it's up there in terms of strength. If you were to just pick the core, which is, you have your Criollo, Connecticut, Ecuador, Corojo, and then Triple Maduro. Yes, the Triple Maduro could be there, right. I mean, it'll be a tough battle between the Corojo and the Triple Maduro, but it's I think it's a medium to full body. It's a dry smoke. It puts out very little smoke, right? I don't know. I think that the Corojo, which would be the DNA of the brand, it's a Honduran Puro. That one is designed to be as powerful as possible, right, within our guidelines. But I think the Corojo would be the most powerful one. Out of the bunch. The Triple Maduro is up there, but just because of the fermentation process that goes into the 3 components of the cigar, I think it brings down the level of intensity. It comes out with other flavors, but it brings out the level of intensity, nicotine wise and stuff like that on the cigar in particular.
Perfect.
Yep.
I think that concludes our session for this evening.
There's another question from Jim Beam. You've answered it already.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well,
perfect. I think, Mitchell, you do another session next week. I think it's with Christian Aroa, actually.
Yep, looks like it. Excellent. Hope we can welcome some of the faces back for another lovely virtual Herf.
Yeah, man. I mean, these sessions have become very popular nowadays, right?
No alternative.
Yeah, we're doing a big shift into these type of sessions, especially with Davidoff. I'm sure you guys have been aware of what we've been doing on social media and stuff. But we've been getting some great traction with Davidoff and Avo as well. So it's the way of the future, man. You know, it just makes it so easy. I'm here sitting down in my backyard in Tampa, and you guys are like across the ocean, and then we're just here chatting. You know, I mean, it's just amazing.
It's what we call the new normal. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're allowed to not have to wear masks. Here, it's law. You have to wear a mask wherever you go. So imagine just going into a cigar lounge and then having to wear a mask. It just gets a little messy. But for now, this is the new normal, and it's great. Thank God for technology, right? And then Zoom and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you, George, again for your time. As
Not
you
a
mentioned,
problem, and whenever you need anything, Roy, you let me know.
I'll let you know for sure. As you mentioned, so in August we will launch the Camacho Nicaragua. So that will come in three sizes, as George mentioned: the Robusto, the Toro, and the Churchill in the UK. So they will all three be available. I'm sure
you guys will love that one.
You will see them around. Yeah. Other than that, the Distillery Edition is also available in some places. So if you haven't tried it yet, then feel free to do so. So thank you again all for your time. Have a good rest of the evening. It's raining here, but in Tampa it's a lot warmer. So lucky you.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go cool off inside. It's like I said earlier, it was 100. It feels like 100. Yeah, I have my fan. There's a little bit of a breeze going right now, so it's it feels good.
I hate you, by the way. Just
yeah.
Don't rub it in.
Oh my God. All right, guys. Well, thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
Thank you for having me, and hope to be back soon and chat some more.
Sounds like a good plan. For those of you, this session has been recorded, so the link will be sent to the marketing team at Cigars, and I think it will be available on their YouTube channel if you want to look anything back. So always good for knowledge.
Thanks, George. Cheers.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you,
George.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Have a good night, all.
Cheers, guys. All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.